Hello and welcome back to school. How has your holiday been? I hope you've had lots of fun. This is the comprehension class, and today we are going to be reading the passage Excalibur from the text Focus on Comprehension, Book 3. Excalibur is what we'll be reading today. Now, first of all, let me ask this question. Have you seen the series Merlin before? Now, for those of you who have, you will find this passage very interesting. And if you have not, well, you still find it interesting anyway. Excalibur, you might want to ask, what is it exactly? Let's find out. Let me give you a hint. What do you see in this picture? I see a sword, very shiny too. And that looks like the handle of the sword with a chain to it, and there's the cover of the sword, also very shiny. Now, what are the objectives for this lesson? Are we just going to be looking at swords, shiny swords, and talking about swords? Are we just going to be talking about the series Merlin? What do we hope to gain by the time this lesson is over? First, you should be able to read the passage fluently and with understanding. And then you should be able to identify the main idea in the story, which means you should be able to say what the story is all about. And then you should be able to identify new words from the passage. Finally, you should be able to answer the comprehension questions. Those are the questions that come after you have read the passage. Now we're going to do a bit of picture reading. Let's look at this picture together. What do you see in the picture? Let's see. I see a man on a boat, and he doesn't seem to be rowing the boat. No, he's not. And then I see a sword out of the river, and there's a hand holding the sword. But the rest of the body I really can't see. So I'm wondering what happened to the rest of the body. Is the person drowning and trying to save the sword? Is the person swimming and just raising the sword to signal for help? I don't know. The person on the boat is looking at the sword, I think, with surprise. I don't know if he seems scared or not, but we'll find out as we continue in the lesson. Now we are going to read the passage together. Picture yourself standing in front of the classroom reading to your classmates, okay? Now you read the text out loud, and feel free to zoom if you can't see the text clearly, because we're going to be reading together. All right? Good. We've already had a thinking ahead question earlier on. What do you think Excalibur could be, and what special properties could it have? Now let's begin reading. What is this place? I asked. This lake separates life from death, Arthur. Beyond the mists is the island of Avalon. Those who live there are not living, neither are they dead. They live in a half-life. They are people not of this world, yet they can come into this world. They have earthly powers and unearthly powers, powers for good and evil. Yet the lake is just a lake like any other. Where is this Excalibur? I asked again. And what is it anyway? Can't you tell me? Oh, be still with your questions, Arthur, said Merlin. Suddenly he leaned forward and pointed. Look! I looked, but could see nothing at first. But then as I looked, I saw the surface of the lake shiver and break. And to my amazement, up out of the lake came a shiny sword, a hand holding it, and an arm in a white silk sleeve. There, Merlin whispered. You have your answer. That is Excalibur. It comes from that half-world of Avalon, the blade forged by elf kind. the scabbard woven by the Lady Nimue herself, the Lady of the Lake, and my lady too. And as he spoke, his voice faltered. See, here she comes. And out of the mists came a figure in flowing green, walking across the water. Yet the water seemed undisturbed beneath her feet, as if she was walking on air. She came towards us, holding a scabbard in both her hands, and a sword belt dangling from it. From the way she looked at Merlin and from the way he was looking at her, I could see there was an old love between them, a love still strong. There was a secret smile in her eyes, and it was all for him. But when she spoke to me. My Lord Arthur, I have made this for you. It is woven from the gold of Avalon. Keep it always with you. Always, you hear me? But the sword, I said. How do I get the sword? Do I have to swim for it? You will not need to, she said, and she smiled gently. As she spoke, I saw a boat lying in amongst the reeds. Where it had come from and how it came to be there, I do not know. Get in, she said. I did not hesitate. The moment I stepped down into the boat, it moved, gliding with scarcely a sound through the dark waters out towards the arm in the middle of the lake. As we came nearer, the boat slowed and paused, only just enough for me to reach out and take the sword by the blade. The arm withdrew into the lake. I watched until the last finger vanished. I sat down in the bottom of the boat and examined the sword on my lap. The hilt was encrusted with jewels and gold, and fitted my grasp like no other I had ever held. The blade was broader than any I had seen before, yet it felt as light as a feather, as if it were part of my arm and not a sword at all. The boat reached the shore and I looked up. Merlin was waiting for me, the scabbard in his hand. The Lady of the Lake was nowhere to be seen. I slid the sword into the scabbard and Merlin buckled the sword belt around my waist. He stood back to look at me. So, now you have Excalibur. Which do you prefer, Arthur? The sword or the scabbard? The sword, of course, I said, drawing it out for the first time. A scabbard without a sword is useless. Not this one, said Merlin. I tell you, Arthur, if you do as Lady Nimue said, if you have the scabbard around your waist, then you will never lose a single drop of blood. Excalibur may bring you victory and glory and honor. It may sight down your enemies like so much ripe corn. But the scabbard will always keep you safe. Never be parted from it, Arthur, never. She made it specially for you as a favor to me. The woman is the love of my life. One day, he went on musing, one day I shall go to her, but not yet. When he turned to me, his eyes were filled with tears. I must be with her. She is always in my head. I think you understand what I mean, don't you, Arthur? I understood only too well. How much longer will you stay with me, Merlin? I asked. A little while yet, he said. A little while. And besides, I will never leave you quite alone. You know that. You will always have Bercelet. And Bercelet came up beside me and shook himself again, showering me from head to toe. Oh, what? Oh, a comfort, I laughed. A great comfort. And so we came home with Excalibur to Camelot. Now that we have finished reading the passage, what do you think is the main idea of the text? Of course, the story is about the journey made by Merlin and Arthur to the island of Avalon, where Lady Nimue gave Arthur a special sword and scabbard that would keep him safe at all times. That is all the story has been about. Now, let's see if we have come across any new word in the passage. You look through yourself and tell me if you find any new word there. I have one example for you. Okay? The word hesitate. Hesitate. What do you think the word means? The word hesitate. Now, this is what hesitate means. It means to be slow to act because of uncertainty or reluctance. To be slow to act because of uncertainty or reluctance. Hesitate. Now, you're going to answer the questions that come next. I hope you get the questions right, and they are pretty easy. If you don't understand the questions, read the questions again and go back to the comprehension and read all over again. That is the end of the lesson for today. See you next week.